In this little video, I'm going to show you another example of how to use the root word organizer. Today I'm going to use the word spectator. If I look at the word spectator, I see right away that the first part of our word actually is not on my list of prefixes. It's actually on my list of base words. So this word does not have a prefix. Not every word has to have a prefix, and not every word has to have a suffix. Sometimes you might also have more than one prefix or more than one suffix. But this time, for this particular word, I don't have any prefix at all. So then I'm going to come down to my box that says base word, and I'm going to type in my base word, spec. So if I look on my list of bases, I see that this word means to watch. So spec means watch. So I filled that in right there. Now I'm going to come down here to my list of suffixes, or to my suffix box, and I have to put in my suffix. And this is where I run into a little bit of a problem, because I see I have spec, or maybe in some cases we might write spect, both would be acceptable. But then I have ator, and on my list of suffixes I only have or. So I have a couple extra letters here, and I have to figure out what am I going to do. So does that mean that tor or ator is a totally different suffix, or do I have just or and I just discard these extra letters? What do I do in a situation like this? So there are a couple things we can do. You will certainly find in other places that the suffix tor means pretty much the same thing as what we have on our list as just or. So if you wanted to put tor, that would be okay. But on our list, we have just or. It's very similar to the suffix er, and it means one who does. Okay. For example, with er, a teacher is someone who teaches. And with or, spectator would be someone who watches. So I'm going to come over to my box that says use what you know about the roots to predict the definition. So I'm going to look at what I've got in these two boxes right here, and I'm going to type someone who watches. Okay? I didn't just make a random guess at that. I used the words that I have in my two boxes right here to make a prediction. All right, so you're saying, well, what did you do with those extra letters? A and T, ator, at. Or if I put the T down here, what about that A? Well, sometimes when we put roots and when we put bases, or bases and suffixes, or bases and prefixes together, sometimes we have to put extra letters in there in order to make the word easier to pronounce. And so if you're breaking your word apart and you find you have a couple extra letters, there's a pretty good chance that that word contains some extra letters because it makes the word easier to pronounce. So spectator, specter, so spectator sounds more natural to us. So we're going to assume in this case that that's why we have some extra letters in there. So that's okay if you end up with a little bit of extra stuff, a little few extra letters. You don't have to worry about that. So I can't forget to come up here to my dictionary definition box, and I happen to have already looked up what the word means, so I'm going to type it in. One who watches a game, show, etc. Whoops. Okay. So again, I see I have a pretty close match between what I predicted spectator means and what the dictionary says spectator means. So that's one more example. Oops, then we have parts of speech. So if you're in the platypus group, can't forget this, if you're in the platypus group, then you have to tell me, because you are also learning the suffixes, what this suffix, what part of speech it is. So if you look on your list, you'll see that when I put or at the end of a word, I turn my word into a noun. So there we have it, spectator, done on our boxes. And we've talked about what happens if we have some extra letters there. How do we deal with that? We've also talked about how not every word has to have a prefix or a suffix. And we see in this case, we do not have a prefix.